It's time for Operation Freedom with your host, Dr. Dave Janda, on Southeast Michigan's conservative powerhouse, WAAM Talk 1600.
In All Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from our ancillary bunker linked to our main Freedom Bunker in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. We're here every Sunday for you from 2 to 5 Eastern. But it doesn't start and stop on Sundays from 2 to 5 Eastern. We are available 24/7, always on call for you, if you will, on the Freedom Network at DaveJanda.com. Yeah, we're there, DaveJanda.com. We have the free, the public side, but we also have the subscription side. Extra shows, extra content, extra guests, extra analysis, all there for you 24/7. We hope you'll become part of our Freedom family. Also available, still, surprisingly enough, they tried to get rid of us, but nope, didn't quite work for the deep state. We are still available on YouTube, youtube.com, Operation Freedom Channel. I upload a new YouTube presentation every Tuesday. Now, what I now call YouTube is YawnTube because, well, you know, if you go into any detail, look out. They're going to take you down. So what we do is we put up some generalized information on our YouTube channel on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. But then the more in-depth information, it's free. Our Operation Freedom Briefing is on the homepage every Tuesday at DaveJanda.com. Just go to DaveJanda.com, a little bit down the homepage, right on the right-hand side. Boom, hit that. Extra analysis for you, and we do that every Tuesday. We're also available on our Rumble channel. We hope you'll join us on any of and all of those channels because the information you get, you're not going to see in the bought-off lamestream fake media. Bottom line, folks, every week in our operating room, we dissect current events that are impacting you, your family, your business, our community, and our country, and we bring to our operating room information and guests the bought-off lamestream fake media either ignores because it doesn't fit into their preconceived, politically correct, bought-off agenda, because they're petrified. They are petrified of what might happen if they actually tell you what you need to know. This show is about your freedom, your political, your economic, your financial, and your health care freedom. Now, a little bit of a heads up. Later in this show today, I am going to be doing a special tribute to Rush Limbaugh. I had the opportunity of meeting Rush, and it was it was years ago. A very interesting meeting, and I think you'll want to hear about, well, what Rush Limbaugh was, at least what I saw, when he wasn't on the radio. Very, very interesting individual. You know, there's been a lot transpiring this past week. I'm calling what happened in Texas, and I have friends and family in Texas. I'm calling it Biden's Katrina. Oh, they don't want you to go there. Oh, no. Imagine if I said that on YouTube or YawnTube. Oh, that's immediate expulsion by the deep state. But it was and is and continues to be and will always be, at least in my mind, and anyone who has any type of analytical thought process, Biden's Katrina. He's been AWOL on, if you will, mobilizing assets ahead of time. Imagine if Trump was president and this happened. It would have been 1 minute after the snow started, and if he hadn't pre-positioned assets, it was just a horrible president. Biden, on the other hand, well, he's thinking about going to Texas. He called the governor finally. He never pre-positioned any assets there or mobilized the Army Corps of Engineers or did anything preemptively. Of course, that would involve him actually having to think about it, and where his mental status is, yeah, that's right, it's impossible. My first guest is someone who wrote a brilliant article entitled Texageddon is Rasping the Green New Deal Utopians. It was written by TraderStef. Now, she specializes in financial markets, but her analytical skills and data analysis go far beyond financial markets, although there is a financial market side to this, what happened in Texas, as she calls Texageddon. But a little background on TraderStef. She initiated a career spanning 14 years within the Belly of the beast, the New York City investment banking industry. She acquired a diverse skill set in human resourcing, technology, and communication, training, education, and development, business analysis, and global risk management. She began investing in precious metals actually as far back as 1999, far ahead of the curve, while following market trends post-dot-com bubble. She then left the banking industry in 2009 after 5 years in global risk management at Citigroup. TraderStef has developed and hosted a live precious hour webinar specializing in gold, silver, and mining equities, combined with research of industry fundamentals, financial markets, global news events, geopolitics, and a monetary policy, otherwise known as what she calls fusion analysis. She has a website, TraderStef, S-T-E-F, TraderStef.com. It is my honor to welcome back TraderStef to the Operation Freedom platform. Steph, welcome back to Operation Freedom.
Dr. Janda, thank you for the kind words. How are you?
I'm warm, although folks in Texas are, I have, as I said, friends and family down there, and they're still not warm, although the temperature's picking up down there. But it's, you called it, your brilliant article, as I referenced in your introduction, Texageddon is rasping the Green New Deal utopians. Educate our listeners on your analysis and your findings, Steph.
Sure. I'm going to go a little bit in reverse here because I ended it with the following. You know, back in January, the new dictator-in-chief Biden stroked his pen across 2 of 52 executive orders and memos that basically gutted the deregulation policies enacted by the Trump administration, which led to energy dominance and independence for the first time in the U.S. since after World War II. But the bombshell news about what happened with Texageddon is that the main culprit, maybe the FBI is going to come knocking on my door, I don't know, but I got the document. It was the Department of Energy via order number 202-21-1, because Governor Abbott, a week before it happened, when the weather forecast was in, he put in a request so that they could generate more energy than was allowed by the regulations being reenacted. And they denied it. And they were like, well, you need to do this first, and you can't put that in the air. And, you know, it turned into a big mess. Until finally, when they allowed them to do it, it was already too late because the whole system broke down. But it's really a sad situation. And it goes into the new Green Deal, which is the financial aspect of this mess. So if you think the $93 trillion new Green Deal plan was designed to save a planet from innate climate cycles with renewable energy, you might want to think again. Because only $8 trillion, keep in mind that's over 10 years, was slated for the actual green energy infrastructure. The remaining $85 trillion goes to, quote unquote, guaranteed jobs, housing, healthcare, and food security. So 91% of the 10-year plan is structured to transform the U.S. economy into a socialist statehood by redistributing the debt we need to take on to make that happen, or wealth, and corral the populace into centralized government dependence and prime the plebes for the naked emperor's great reset, which is an article I wrote. So, and if you add China's Skynet surveillance system to the mix, that will multiply the futility of any resistance from the plebes or the remaining patriots. It doesn't look real good. But if we look at the new Green Deal, I'm going to throw a few figures out here, and it's all in the article. So let's say we need to get to zero emissions by 2050. You need to replace 193 petawatts, hours of petroleum-based fuel every year until 2050. So that's 10,500 days roughly right now. So we would need to install generating capacity every day until 2050 of 22 terawatts. So if we go all nuclear and we bring on 2.1 gigawatt nuclear power plant every day until 2050, don't like nukes? Well, we could use wind power. We'd have to install 3,000 medium-sized turbines every day until 2050. Don't like wind? Well, we could use solar, but that's 100 square miles of solar powers every day until 2050. And if we go with both, wind and solar, a little bit of both, they're highly intermittent. The wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine. You're still going to need somewhere around 50% of some other source, which would be nuclear. So you have to diversify your energy base in order to achieve it. And look, Texas, this is not about climate change. Not at all. Because historically speaking, Texas witnessed its lower temperatures ever was 23 below zero in February of 1899 and 1933. And that was before Ford and SUVs, by the way. And in 1956, they had the largest snowfall. It was 36 inches. And earlier this week, the temperature dropped to -2 in Fort Worth, and that tied a previous record from 1949. And San Angelo tied its second coldest record of -1, and that caused that car pileup, which so many people got killed. That was just devastating. It was really scary. So why did it get so cold in Texas? Well, all the meteorologists were saying that there was a La Nina in the Pacific, and that causes the jet stream to dip into the Midwest a little bit further. So there would be cooler weather in the Midwest, and that's the way the winter's been. And the jet stream, not the jet stream, but the polar vortex was kind of weak. So the chances of a part of that breaking off and getting caught up in a jet stream, that's exactly what happened. And it dipped really far south in Texas. And that's why they got the cold weather. And this isn't the first time it happened in Texas. 10 years ago, 3.2 million households experienced a similar problem. And a big report came out the following year of what they needed to do to upgrade the system. That never happened because, remember, that's when Obama came into office and they were, pushing green energy. But remember, when Texas began installing their wind turbines, that was before the technology was integrated or available for de-icing within the wind turbine. So their systems are kind of old. And what was the first thing that went down this time? The wind turbine.
The turbines, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then the gas, they tried to pick up the slack with the gas, but then some of those lines froze. And then they started importing the electricity, and, it went up. Actually, the number's not 10,000%. It's 18,000% on a wholesale basis. So there's people getting bills in the thousands of dollars. It's just ridiculous. There's no way they're going to be able to pay those bills. So, I don't know what to make of this mess, but they're going to have to winterize their system down there no matter what. And probably Governor Abbott should have said, you know what? I'm going to run the plants as they need to be run without your okay. When they had this problem, even if the windmills still went down, which they would have been able to survive through it.
I completely agree. This is, my bag, obviously, Steph, in addition to being an orthopedic surgeon, is being proactive, working in prevention.
Yeah.
And there was nothing done from a prevention standpoint on this thing. You're right. Joe Bastardi, the great meteorologist, was on this show last Sunday speaking about the potential devastation this was going to cause. He had tried to get that information out through the networks that all, essentially, with the exception of one individual, they didn't have him on because they'd rather talk about that goat rodeo of an impeachment process. And in the process, could have saved many lives by getting that information out in front. But as you said, they tried to get this, Abbott and some folks in Texas tried to get, the regulation, if you will, the regulations on green energy kind of put aside so they could ramp up, and they got shut down by the Department of Energy, as you state, through that Order 202-21-1. Yeah,
and the climate activists are all over this. And if you get into because of the COVID lockdowns, and if you get into a debate about whether they were necessary or there are other ways to mitigate the risk with COVID, it results in angry retorts. You're branded a denier or you're a granny killer. So, now they're talking about beginning the new era of global environmental consciousness for a new world order. So after working home for a year, maybe getting paid for it, fresher air, clearer skies, the new cancel culture whistle is climate lockdowns. They're going to limit your driving hours. They're going to ban meats. They're going to impose energy-saving measures and overhaul the economic structures and do capitalism differently. This is all great reset stuff, and it smells really bad.
Well, and as I mentioned, I have family and friends down in Texas. They were saying that the way they were going to try to alleviate some of the issues related to this just absolute mess up they had by not, preloading the situation in many different ways, no pun intended, was, well, they were going to go house to house and have people go to warming centers. Now, wait a minute. It is my family and friends said, wait a minute. Whoa. You've been telling us we had a lockdown for all these months, and now you want us to go with a bunch of strangers in a confined area for these warming centers.
Yep.
Even though we've already now gone out and gotten wood and put in our fireplace and are having fires, and as opposed to some people that went to Cancun or whatever. But it's off the charts. And then you had the AOCs out there saying, you see, this is a problem with fossil fuels and the failure of fossil fuels that this happened. Steph, as you pointed out so articulately in your article and in this interview, it was the wind turbines freezing up where minimal to no energy was generated.
Yeah, it was the linchpin. It was the beginning of the dominoes, but it was the underlying, what took place even before it happened, that it could have been mitigated to some degree. And that's right. The Department of Energy, putting the kibosh on them exercising their independence and liberty was destroyed. This is not Texas' fault.
No,
they could have updated the system after 2011.
Steph, this was so predictable on so many fronts. A number of years ago, a similar situation happened in Germany.
It did? Yeah. I don't know about that.
Yeah, the wind power, the solar power failed. Their green technologies failed, and they had these huge rolling blackouts. And by the way, those rolling blackouts were not rolling blackouts in most of Texas. They were there was no power. Period. It was a blackout. It wasn't rolling anywhere. It was a shutdown.
Yeah, they had to. Otherwise, they were going to completely blow out the system, and it would have been out for a couple of months. It got really bad because it wasn't mitigated properly to begin with a week earlier.
So where do we go from here, based on what we learned from Texas this past week? Because this could easily be throughout the entire country if things play out the way Basement Joe Biden and AOC and Bernie Sanders want to have planned out.
It ties into a lot of topics, but relating to energy, our energy independence is about to go out the window, and we're going to be importing oil. I mean, you're seeing the prices going up at the gas pump. I wrote about that too. So this is just the beginning of the end, and maybe Kamala's going to be sworn in on March 4th. We'll see. Just saying.
Stranger things have happened.
It's scary. Scary times.
So let's look at financial markets, in particular precious metals. A lot of folks have a lot of questions about them. What's your take on silver and gold at this point?
Yeah, I wanted to speak a lot about the silver squeeze, but, there's so many rabbit holes with this, and so many people are just, it was the wrong thing to do. I was covering it live on Twitter as it was happening, and I wrote an article. It's called Robbin-da-Hood, the silver squeeze requiem. But look, silver and gold in the past week are going through their options and futures settlements between February 24th and February 25th. So that's going to end up clearing out. And we still have the upside seasonality pattern that runs into early April. So we got the Christmas rally, but what happened was the Robin-da-Hood experience blew out two very bullish patterns on both the silver and the gold chart, where we were getting ready to break out and move forward. And this whole mess just ruined that. And now, if you're average Joe and if you're looking for an ounce of silver, you're lucky if you can find it. It's just really terrible. And I keep repeating myself. I know, I'm sorry. It wasn't the right way to go about this initially. Could have been done a lot better. But on the silver chart, there's a new pattern that may be developing, and it's a possible inverse head and shoulders that goes all the way back to August. And the right side of the shoulder hasn't completed yet to go up and reach the highs that creates that neckline up there. If that gets taken out, we're off to the races. On the gold chart, it's a little bit different. Gold has now put in a double bottom from the correction that started back in August, and it found support around a major pattern that occurred back in June and July when it initially broke out. So there's a lot of support here. It's unlikely it will go any lower. But we now need to get back above a very long-term up channel that goes back a couple of years, and we broke down the bottom side of that. But a lot of buying came in over toward the end of the week, and there was a lot of selling at the same time, and it looked like a capitulation to me. Plus, it put in the double bottom. So I think we're going to start riding a little bit higher, but we got to get out of this options and future settlement scenario at the end of this month. We'll see what happens in March.
Steph, let's address, and folks, we're speaking with TraderStef, S-T-E-F, TraderStef.com. Steph, there's some chatter on the internet that there's always chatter on the internet about, well, the delivery situation in both, in particular with silver, that there are right now a lot of open contracts and those contracts have to be settled within the next week or so. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, if the futures markets collapses and gets destroyed, and now you're not able to get physical at retail level, and then the ETFs blow up, how are you going to invest? It just blows out the whole process, no matter how you feel about it. Now you're not going to have the avenue to get in. But, we've been talking about this for years. There were lots of opportunities to go in and get your physical silver or your physical gold, and you should have taken advantage of it. But still, it's really doing a disservice to Main Street for it to have played out this way, which can domino into a lot of other issues. So as hedge funds and other entities that have investments in futures and or options and things get blown out, that kind of dominoes, and you could end up seeing a Lehman event, and there could be a major financial crisis that would occur because of it. So it's not just about futures contracts. There's a much bigger picture here that could be devastating for everybody on a completely different level.
Steph, how, in our last minute, how can folks follow you? How can they get access to your articles and your great writings and your analysis?
Oh, thanks. TraderStef.com. I'm running a workshop that I started in January. There's a page at the website. It's called Workshop. Go check that out if you're interested. Send me an email. Just follow the instructions on that page. And I'll get this article posted up on my website about Texageddon either late tonight or tomorrow. Right now it's posted elsewhere. So, great interview. Thank you, Dave.
Steph, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. You are a wealth of information. You're very generous in sharing that information, and in so doing, enhancing the freedom and welfare of every person willing to listen and act upon it. Folks, you're listening to Operation Freedom. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from our ancillary bunker, linked to our main Freedom Bunker in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor.